Hi, my name's Simon Morse and I'm the author and illustrator of The Adventures of Rocket Kid. And again, I'm going to pick up where we left off last time. We're going to look at how to create the line work for the children's book illustration that we were working on in the first video. So in the second video, we're just going to look at how to turn those pencil lines into the finished lines which you'll actually see in the final book. So this part's obviously quite important because people are going to see this and it's going to be an important part of the final painting we do in the third part of the video. So when I start to create the actual line work for the book, I need to use a very specific pen, and this is the pen that I use. It's got a very brush-like nib, and it means that you can create thinner and thicker lines by applying more or less pressure. So I go over to the line work which I created, the sketch which I created in the first part, and then I start to add this line work over the top of each of my sketches, and you can see that in these pictures that we're just going through now. Now, to make the lines thicker, all I do is push down on that brush a little bit harder to create a wider surface area on the paper, and this is a really great pen for doing this actually. And as you can see, I'm just building that over the top of the sketch, and then the final thing I do when I've done that over all of the sketch is that I simply just rub out those pencil lines that we created in the first part, meaning that I've now got a really clean set of line works which I can use in my final illustration, which look nice, that you'll be able to see in the final book. And as you can see, I went on to do that for all the other different parts of the scene. But now the next thing we're going to look at is how I put that together in Coral Painter, which is the program I use. So here you can see I've got my page set up with my bleeds around the edge and my center page in the middle. So now what I'm doing is I'm taking that line work that I've created, that pen work which I did just a few moments ago, and I'm adding it to the page. Now alongside me as I'm doing this, I've got that thumbnail sketch that I created at the beginning to remember where I want all the different parts to go. And I'm trying to organise those different parts that I've now done the line work for on the page to build up the illustration that I had in mind. Now this is the beauty of drawing things separately and then putting them together in the program, because it now means that I can actually make minor adjustments without too much hassle. So if I think, oh crumbs, I don't like the position that I put that in first time round, I can just shuffle things a little bit because all these different parts of the line work that I'm putting in come in on layers, so I can adjust and move about each of the different layers whenever I like. So by doing it this way, I've kept the process fairly flexible. So although I know what I want my final page to look like, I can still keep things fairly flexible and change things here if I want to, and the program lets me do that very easily. Now you can see that I'm just sort of placing things, moving them around, resizing them a little bit, pushing them around. I can just select the corners of these images to squish them or stretch them, make them bigger or smaller, twist them. And you can also see that some of the line work overlaps each other. By setting the line work to multiply mode in Coral Painter, it means that you kind of just keep the line work and you're not putting pictures on top of each other, meaning that it looks a little bit like they overlap at the moment. But in a few minutes you can see how we basically just rub out the parts that I don't need to make the picture look good. So I've kind of changed the picture a little bit here. I decided I wanted a really good foreground element, so I went with one of the cactus-like plants that I designed for the planet. So I put one of those in the foreground just to change it a little bit really, and just make it feel a bit more like there's a bit more depth in it by creating something nearer to the viewer of the scene. So yeah, I moved that cactus to a bit nearer in the foreground. Now it's quite hard to do this really in some ways, because I'm also going to add some extra bits to my final picture, like the smoke from Rocket Kid, which really sort of drags the viewer around the page following the smoke. So we haven't actually got that at the moment, but what we need to remember really is just to make sure I get these main parts in the right place. Now what you can see me doing at the moment is I'm taking that line work which I had and I'm making it just that little bit stronger. I can in the program I can correct the colours on the page, so I'm basically really upping the contrast to get rid of any little marks and sliding down the brightness to make sure my black line work's really dark, really clean, and quite thick and chunky and nice to look at. So I go around and I do this for all the different layers. Now you could flatten the layers and do this all together, but it makes the rubbing out part a little bit harder. So I do it individually, just adjusting all the layers, making sure that they're really nice, clean, dark line work to make sure my picture is going to stand out and look bold and clean when I paint it. So this is just a simple case of going through each of the layers, doing it bit by bit. I think I've pretty much so finished now, getting near the end. Looks like the last layer to me. Okay, so the next thing I need to do is what I said a minute ago. I now need to go and rub out the parts that I don't want. So this this cactus is just over the horizon, so we don't want the bottom part because that's blocked by the planet. Often when you're putting lots of pictures on the screen and you're adjusting them, you end up with this kind of messy line around the edge of the page. So I often have to erase around the edge of these pictures as well, just to get rid of that line, because you don't want lines like that over your picture in your final picture, because everything we're doing at the moment will be seen in that final picture that ends up in the book. So it's important that this bit's clean and tidy, so any parts and marks that you don't like at this point you really need to just sort of scrub out and get rid of. Otherwise you'll be able to see them in the final book, which would be really annoying. So it's quite important to be quite careful when you're doing this, going around the picture, erasing all those little bits and pieces that you don't want to see, those bits which are either behind other things or those marks which are remnants, probably from when I scuffed my page a little bit when I was doing my line work. So I use a graphics tablet, a Wacom tablet, to do all of this. It's much easier than using a mouse, much quicker. It means I can actually get this part done quite quickly, and it's still quite a flexible process, because if I change my mind about where something might go, I could easily adjust that now and just sort of select the layer and move it around a little bit. But when I've done this and I finish cleaning up all my different layers and getting rid of all my marks, I'll then flatten down all these layers together so I've got one finished piece of artwork, which will be the base for my painting part, which I'll do in the next and the final video. So as you can see now, I've got all my line work done using that nice pen I showed you before, and I've put it all together in the program and I've got it saved. So that was the second part of the video, showing you how I do the line work and how I put it together in Coral Painter. In the last video I'll show you how I paint that image. So again, if you want to check out the first book in the Rocket Kid series, visit the website you can see on the screen, or go to Amazon and have a little look at some of the reviews. Hopefully you like the book and want to give it a go and are looking forward to the second book in the series. So thanks again for your time.